Um, and I want to take one other one that I actually want to read to you apart in Hebrew. I'm going to translate it, but it's from a book called the Sefer Chinuch, which is the book of it lists all the mitzvot. It's 13 mitzvot, but this mitzvah is in both the set of commandments for Jews and set of commandments for Noachites. So I want to read to you. He has a short little explanation of the root of the mitzvah, the reason for the mitzvah. Now, you have to understand, reasons for mitzvot are tricky businesses because God's reasons are endless. But we're allowed to understand part of the mitzvah that's relevant to us to have it make sense. That you could do. So I want to read to you his words here on this mitzvah. We'll talk about it a little bit, and then I'll open some questions, okay? Can you all see me? Because I'm pulling it up on my computer, this thing. Could you still see me? No.
Yeah, we got you fine, Rabbi.
Oh, you can see me. Okay, great. All right, because I'm gonna just read to you. I sent it to myself. My books are all still in America, so I only have some books. So I sent this to myself, this little quote, and I'm going to read it to you now. Okay, so the mitzvah I want to talk about is, as I set it up to you last time, I think we could look at the 7 mitzvot in a way that is like 3 roots of mitzvot, and then the things that come out of them. And the 3 roots of the mitzvot are really lining up the 3 types of relationships. The 3 types of relationships are what? People to God, people to each other, and people to themselves. Okay? That's how I would define the 3 types of relationships. How do you relate to others? How do you relate to God? How do you relate to yourself? And they line up within the Torah, which is called the 3 cardinal sins for Judaism and Torah. There are 3 commandments persons give up their life for, and they're rooted in the 3 most problematic traits. What are the 3 most problematic traits? The sages tell us there are 3 traits that will take a person out of this world. One is unbridled desire. Unbridled desire. So that means a person is doing something they know is bad for them, but they can't stop because they have no ability to relate to their own selves. They know it's bad. They know they're throwing away their lives in this 1 minute of so-called pleasure, but they're not in control themselves. So that's a breakdown in relationship between man and themselves, and that is the unbridled desire is the root of this problem. Okay. The second problematic aspect of the traits that destroy a person is jealousy. And jealousy is a breakdown between man and his fellow man. That a person, jealousy doesn't mean that you want something yourself. It means that when you see the person having it, it actually upsets you because you're like, why should they have it? What kind of business is that? Well, you should be happy they have it. You should say, okay, maybe there's some things that you want, but if you want it because they have it, you have uncovered this very base trait that people have. That was the story of Cain and Abel, Cain and Hevel, right? Even the words, the name Cain in Hebrew is the word kinyan, an acquisition. And when Chava named him, when Eve named him, she said, Kaniti, he said to Hashem, I've made a man, I've acquired a man with God, meaning that Adam and Eve were created by God, but this was a person that they created. He's a somebody. Being a somebody is very important in life. But what happens is, because if you don't think you're a somebody, you're valuable, you won't do anything. But the problem is that when a person starts to see themselves in their value, they want everything. That's the bad trait of jealousy, of kinna, which is the root of murder. You see, Cain killed his brother. So that is the other aspect, and that's the second deadly trait. So unbridled desire, the pursuit of jealousy, and then the third one is the unbridled desire, yearning for honor. And that's where the breakdown relationship between man and God. Because that means I want them to honor me instead of God. And as I said to you many times, the root of idolatry really was a worship of self. That's why the Greeks, their gods were human beings. And all the idolaters, the idea was to manipulate. And I'm talking about stupid people today who make up stuff. If you're following the Torah portion, what the Egyptians did is unbelievable. How many people can make a mummy today? How many people can make a pyramid? We are so advanced in our technology, we cannot do what they did. Egypt was the root of intelligence and incredibly deep things. They studied the occult, and what did they want to do? They had many gods, and that's the story when Moses comes to Pharaoh. He says, "Who is God? Who is Hashem?" What does that mean? He says, "Listen, I know there's a name Elohim of God, that's the power, but you're talking about the name God that controls everything. I don't care about that. I care about what powers, because the idolaters were trying to manipulate the spiritual world that God created to get what they want. But they don't want to relate to God, because if you relate to God, then you can't fool God. You can't manipulate God. So it's trying to take God's world that he created with different forces and find ways that they thought was manipulating the spiritual worlds to get what they wanted. So really, idolatry is rooted in the wanting of honor for yourself instead of for God. And that's why it's the third deadly trait of pursuing honor, because it's a breakdown of relationship between man and God. You don't realize that the honor of God and understanding that you are a created entity and you should want to serve and to connect and reveal God in the world, but rather you want the honor for yourself. So those are the three I've said to you last time. Now I want to. One of the things that Dan said last time, when I asked what you thought was like the central, like the starting point, Dan said the one blasphemy, and I want to explain blasphemy today, which I thought was a very great point that Dan said. I qualified it in saying I think blasphemy, in a certain sense, is the extension of idolatry, because idolatry means that the person denies the source of God, and then blasphemy is taking this breakdown relationship between man and God and turning it to another level in the world of action. It's not, there's the root cause is, do you relate and understand there is a creator who is the source of everything? Do you understand that? And if you don't, then you got a problem. And now from that misunderstanding of not being able to relate properly and understand your role as a created entity, it leads then to the expression of this I'll call it the fourth of the seven Noachide laws, which I'll call blasphemy as the fourth. And that's to say this order, but I'm adding this order to make sense. So I want to read you the words of the great sage, the Sefer Chinuch, the book of introduction, where he explains all the 32 commandments, and he gives little explanations. A short explanation for blasphemy. Listen to this amazing thing. We'll try to understand this. I'm going to read the words in Hebrew and I'll translate. The root of this commandment of not blasphemizing is lefish mitroken adam b'maimar ra, how we call hatova, because the person will empty himself with this terrible statement of all goodness. He empties himself of all goodness. The kol hod nafsho, and all the glory of his soul, his spirit, is nehepach lamasi. It actually turns into a destroying force, and he is considered like an animal. Why? Because in this thing in self that God separated man for good, and what makes him a man, what makes him a human being, is the power of speech. That he is separated from the animals. God gave us the power of speech. Animals can't speak. They have some level of communication, but not speech. Because what is speech? Speech is the ability to take the soul aspect of the person, which is the higher aspect, and the actions are the physical. And there's a bridge between them, which is speech, where you could take your godly component and express it into the world. So this person takes what makes him human And above the animals, the power of speech, and it's ma'avdil, that's why, and he separates himself for evil. Umotzi atzmo lagami, takes himself out completely from all aspects of that, of understanding and wisdom. So he's taken this quality of speech, which is what makes him human, and now he's emptying his soul by trying to blasphemize, trying to not understand the proper relationship with God. He makes himself now the lowest thing in the world. He's taken himself out completely of any understanding of any mind, and he becomes like a kisheretz nimas, like a lowly swarm, a bug, like a swarming animal that's crawling, and even worse than him, because the lowly earthworm is doing what it has to do in this world. But this guy has been given a power of speech to express and understand the way the world is, and now he sees the opposite. And therefore the Torah warns us against this, because the God who is all good and wants to give good to us, and everything, and everything and every word, every statement that would cause non-goodness to come to the person, is against what God wants. God wants to give everyone good. So if the person goes now and will start to blasphemize, he will take his quality of humanity, the ability to speak, and he's going to empty his soul from everything by going worse than the lowest creature in the world, because the lowest creature is doing what it has to do. And the man was given his elevated part, and now he takes it, instead of seeing the world as it is, instead of seeing God and the beauty of God's world and the goodness that he gives us, he sees the opposite. He has lowered himself lower than the lowest animal. He's worse than that. And that's why man was created, Adam and Eve, humanity was created as the last thing in creation. On one hand, the soul of humanity was created first, the body is created last in the text. And why is that? Because there's a few reasons, but one reason is because man, it can be the pinnacle of creation. You can take everything in creation and use it and elevate it. And that's why he's in the spiritual sense, he's the first, but in the physical is the last, because they take now the qualities of every creation and they could use it, right? A human being can be a lion. A human being could wake themselves up to do what's right. A human being could take all the qualities of all of the natural world and use it, because the human being is the sum total of all of reality. So, for example, a bull can gore, a turtle can protect itself. Only a human being can make a sword and a shield. Means we're the final thing in creation, because we take the whole thing and elevate it. As what happened when Adam was created, the song that he sings, which is the song we sing on Shabbat, now when Shabbat comes in, he turned to the creations and he said, Hashem, come, let us all sing praises to God. He elevated the whole world. So that's why it's created last. But there's another reason why man's created last, because if he doesn't use the faculties and the abilities he has, he becomes lower than the lowest animal, because everyone in the creation does exactly what God wants. The only one who has a choice to not do it is human beings. So they take the highest part of themselves, the power of speech, which is the power to take the internal components of ourselves and express them in the world. And he expresses the opposite of reality, and he sees, he blasphemizes, he doesn't understand what God is giving him. He has destroyed his whole being. That is the underpinning of what this is. And ladies and gentlemen, I hate to say it, but whether I'm not getting it right now to the laws of what it means of the technical aspect of what to blasphemize is. I said we could go into the laws of specific, but I've given you the concepts, because the concept of this, the root of this, is so prevalent in the world. It's prevalent. I mean, like people are just like, I mean, I don't know. It's a bizarre world where right now so many people don't see God in the world. And as they dig in their heels deeper into the stuff, they create more concealment in the world, and their hatred, and their this and their that, and they don't see a beautiful world. It's amazing. Now I'll ask you a question. I'll ask you a question. There are the two greatest physical pleasures in the world. Okay? What are they? The two greatest physical pleasures, most people would say, is eating and procreating. Okay? Two greatest physical pleasures. Okay with that. Now I want to just point something out. Those two greatest physical pleasures are the two pleasures that if God wanted to make them unenjoyable, unpleasurable, you would still have to do them. Right? Food could taste like cardboard. And every day you'd have to, I gotta eat. Gosh. But God makes it taste so delicious. That person wants to have children. Okay. He wants to feel continuity, wants to feel a certain sense of eternity. That's what it is. And God could have said, okay, I'll make this unpleasant, but you gotta do it. But he doesn't. Why is that? Why does an orange, why do all fruit, when they're ripe, they look so good? Why didn't God make it that, okay, fine. So when you have that ripe, the ripe apple, it looks, great. Doesn't. The creation sings out. The creation has this beauty, that perfection that people are missing today. And part of it, they don't understand the idea. When I say the word perfection, they misunderstand what that means. It doesn't mean God created the world finished. He didn't. He left it for us. The challenges that we have are real. There's different science discussions about a creator and trying to prove and this and that. And I forgot where I saw it. I saw it in a certain science book. I forgot where I saw it, but they had this calculation of if everything was slightly off, the world could never exist. I don't know if you ever saw this. Like if the Earth was a tiny bit further away from the sun, it could never happen. If this was, and I forgot where I saw it, the guy went through these all incredible things in science to show that the world is set up for life, and people do not in the world today. That's why the world's an angry place. Blasphemy is we talk about it as the sin itself, but the concept, the mindset is prevalent in this society. This society is getting weirder and weirder. Hashem should help us because it's like really you see it's coming towards times of Mashiach. I mean, it says that before Mashiach comes, I mean, people become so low. It's scary not scary because it's all planned out, but to see people, I don't know what's going on in the States, but like to see these people, supporting Nazis, like wow, that is amazing. It is really amazing. 75 years later, it's like it's back to where it started. And it's so that's blasphemy. Blasphemy is, I mean, again, I'm not getting into the specifics of the halacha, exactly what would constitute right now. I want you to see the concept. The concept is, do you see God's beautiful world? Or do you have a whole wrong view of what it is? God is creating the world to give us good. Now, not the good that people think of, which is exactly, I said to you before, the two greatest pleasures, physical pleasures, which are eating and procreating. So people, what they do is that God set it up because it is something that, well, I'll ask you a question. I'll open it up. Why did God make that the greatest pleasures? Why did he do that? And there's a lot of reasons for this. You can think about it, there's a few different reasons for it. But one reason is because you're doing something very powerful in the world. You're bringing life into the world. When you eat, you are making yourself live. When you procreate, you are bring life into the world. So these are both issues of life. That means that they are important, they are holy. And as everything in the world, there's no reason why something that was so valuable wouldn't resonate with the human being. It's like a real it's interesting thing. It's like people grow up in the Western world, in certain cultures and certain religions, whatever. You have to understand, what is this issue of, let's say, intimacy? Is it a dirty thing or is it a beautiful, holy thing? Well, from a Jewish perspective, it's a beautiful, holy thing. It's not this. It's a completely wrong understanding. But why? What's the association? Association is, yeah, two people could have a relationship like animals, that they don't love each other, they don't care about each other, they're hooking up, whatever the idiotic term of the society is, and they're functioning animals. And so these two areas, the eating, the procreating, are the most abused in the world. They're completely abused. Instead of someone saying, "Wow, God gave me this beautiful apple. I want to thank Him. I can make a blessing on this apple, and it's going to give me strength to live a meaningful life, and it tastes good as I'm eating it." Instead of that, it's just shoving it in our faces and trying to just rip apart and grab as much as we can in an animalistic way. Same thing with relations, physical relations. So the beauty of the connection of the male and female to bring a child into the world, to have intimacy and love in that relationship, is something so powerful and something so beautiful. And yet the world is obsessed with taking. It's like an example, like they used to go, and I know in Israel they do this. They have these mothers that want their kids to eat some bread. So they do is they put this chocolate spread on it. All right, I don't get how healthy chocolate spread is, but they want the kid. So they take this chocolate spread, they put it on, they say, "Here." So okay, so fine. So if you're a good kid, you say, "Okay, thanks for the chocolate spread. I'll take the bread." What do people do today in the world? They lift the chocolate spread and leave the bread. They just say, "Yeah, we don't want that. We just want the pleasure, but we don't want the whole deeper aspect of what this is." So we have a world that is going nuts, and we need to be able to be those that see the goodness in this world. And that's literally what's happening in the parsha. It's just so great. I mean, it's a happy time in terms of we just finished the month of Tevet, which was the darkest month of the year. It's fascinating how Hanukkah leads into Hanukkah is the only holiday, Jewish holiday, that straddles 2 months. It's the light that is in the darkest time of the month of Kislev, but it leads us into the darker month of Tevet, which just passed. Now we entered into a new month, the month of Shvat, and it really is the process of what's happening in the story of Egypt, where we went down to Egypt into the darkness, but not for the point of darkness, but to get out of the darkness. And now we're reading the Torah about the story of the Exodus of Egypt. And what it is, it's God introducing Himself to the world, because the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the people who were the original Jewish people, and Abraham became the father of all nations in many senses. That's his name even. So they understood the Torah, but they weren't commanded. They understood it. They looked at the world, they saw the beauty in the world, and they saw the way the world worked, and they were able to figure out what it was. But that's different than when God comes and sends Moses to Pharaoh, and he says, "I want to show you something. You're stuck in your little world. I'm going to show you that there is a creator. He's completely omnipotent to whatever he wants to do in this world, and he's involved in this world." And that is like the shock. And when you see it, so it depends on what your perspective is. If you have the right perspective, you're like, "Awesome, wow, life is meaningful. This is great. This is fantastic. Life is meaningful. I don't know. I went to my college course and they told me I was a cosmic accident. I was depressed so long. I said, what am I doing here? I'm not doing anything. So they tell you, keep drinking and keep stuffing food in your mouth, and you won't have to think about it. Keep a TV on. You won't have to think about life being meaningless because it's a cosmic accident, according to Darwin. So now I found that no, life's not an accident. There's an omnipotent, beneficent God who created the world for a purpose, and he's involved in our lives, and he's bringing the world to goodness. And that's why the person who's the blasphemer, his mind has gotten so distorted in the way he sees the world. And then he takes this distortion that is unfortunately seeping through so much of the world today, and he actually takes his godly power of speech and he puts it out there. Once he does, he's finished. He just cut himself off from experiencing the beauty of the world as it really is. That's my thought, and I want to open it up to questions, ideas, and comments.
Who would like to get first in the queue? Join.
And you can ask about different things also. I mean, this could be other stuff too.
Who would be first? Comments, questions? All of us are probably pretty saturated right now. We've been in class since 10 o'clock this morning.
Okay.
Dan, do you have anybody from the social media?
Not really. It's pretty quiet. We got a few people out there watching, but
So Dan, should I go into some heavy politics? Is that what everybody needs? A little shaking up the tree with some politics.
that's always enough to stir the pot, Rabbi. Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
boy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but here's the thing: you get to go back and retreat in Israel. That we have to stay here.
I'll tell you, I don't know. We're planning our trip. As you know, I told you we were supposed to leave actually last week, and our flight was canceled. So we just made a new flight on El Al. It was the only airlines flying in Israel right now. But it really is a difference. It's really a difference because what happened in Israel now, and this is it's fascinating to see. It's like Jews, and I told you this before, the Jews have a certain mission in the world, and they must do this mission to be a light to nations, to express God in the world, and to teach. And unfortunately, there are Jews who are not doing what they have to do and don't know what they have to do and do not what they have to do. And they make up a lot of really stupid ideas, really, really dumb. I mean, like, brilliant in their stupidity, Zuckerberg and Karl Marx and whatever other guy made up an incredible new philosophy of some sort, but if it's not the Torah, it's the yearning to create something that thinks meaningful, but it's not going to be like that if it's not rooted in the truth. Because the real difference between truth and falsehood, you should know, is a very crucial difference. The real difference between truth and falsehood is that truth lasts forever. Falsehood doesn't last forever because there's so many ideas. Every time you get a book, it's like I mentioned to you before, it's like you get a book, a self-help book, and I have some books that I read 20 years of self-help. You bring it to somebody today, that's stupid. Every single book is like, that's wrong today, because and it wasn't that they were totally wrong. It was that they were seeing a temporary vantage point, and that's okay, but that's not truth, and that will not stand the test of time. So what happens is that you have, and this is why I feel bad that I like to explain to someone like Tucker Carlson and some other people who probably wondering when they look at some Jews that are very left wing, and reality is they are left wing. It's pretty much across the board. Those are non-religious Jews, that are Jews that do not keep the Torah. That's pretty much like across the board. People that keep the Torah will obviously not have leftist views because they go against Torah. Now, it doesn't mean everything in the right is so good. I mean, I don't think that, I'm not saying that the Republican Party are angels by any stretch of the imagination. And as you see the politics and you just see the stuff that's going on, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much corruption all over the place. But obviously, certain ideas are going to be clearly against the Torah. What's happened in Israel is fascinating, and shocking, and putting the whole Jewish world really. What happened is that the leftist Jews in Israel, who parallel the leftist Jews in America, have woken up. They woke up. They're like, wait a minute, we were the ones pushing the Oslo Accords. We were the ones who were trying to, had this belief. And now we see that these people are Nazis, they're Islamo-Nazis. There's no difference. They're Nazis. Their goal is to kill the Jewish people. Okay. It's not a new thing. We've known about this for years. It's called Amalek. We know about this. So they woke up. And American Jews are a little slower. America is harder because you're really saturated in it. And like I said to you, there's two kinds of people in America. There are people, there are three kinds. There are ones like yourselves that, your heads are screwed on right. You're seeing this is not right. This is not right. You're looking for the truth. You're looking to hear that from what the Torah says. And then you have people who are supporting these Islamo-Nazis, and it's for one of two reasons. Either they themselves are Nazis, either they themselves support it because they do want to destroy Jews. There's some hatred they have because, deep down, they're like, this phenomenon of a Molech, of this evil that wants to destroy the representation of God in the world, is very, very real. And it's not something new. We've seen it for thousands of years. This is the story in the Torah of as we left the land of Egypt and God did the wonders and miracles, and split the Red Sea. And the whole world said, oh my gosh, whoa, this is real. The whole world was this close to getting it. And then there was one group that said, we'll call them Nazis, they're called Amalek, that said, this is not what we want. We don't want the whole world connecting back to God. We want to be separate. And that's when they went to kill the Jewish people. So this is an old phenomenon. So what happens in America, you have people that are supporting this because they themselves are essentially Nazis. And the second reason they have is maybe they're really not intelligent and informed. Now, the truth is you have to be really very, very, very uninformed and very, very unintelligent to not see through this. I was thinking something else for these people, so many of them, and that's they really lost the ability to think for themselves. They just hear the news and they're like, just swallowed hook, line, and sinker. So what you said, Rod, was true in a certain sense. In the world, the confusion is getting worse because the reality of the Nazis picking their head up and either not intelligent people or the people who can't think anymore and just believe whatever that they're telling them, they're lost in this. The Jewish people in Israel are, even the ones who were the big leftists before, are in the process of waking up. And they're waking up and they're saying, wait a minute, we had a wrong philosophy. And I just want you to know that is what's happening. That is what's happening.
It reminds
me. And that's
me
why I want to tell you something else, which is why I just see how you understand. It's nothing to do with all this stuff. It has to do with what Jewish people keeping the Torah, doing the right thing. What's happening really in a deeper sense is the Jews are being sent back to their land. So the anti-Semites in South Africa, whatever it is, all these places that are picking their head up right now, all it's doing is they don't realize it, and they won't get any credit. They can get punished for this, but they're actually just wheels in the process of the redemption, sending the Jews back to the Holy Land. That's what they're doing, but they don't get credit for it because they're not doing it for that reason. So that's what's happened. You're right, Rod. It's a different story, and we got to pray for everyone in the world who has an aspect of goodness to be able to see the truth and not fall into this world of Amalek,
Right.
this world of Nazism.
I do see a connection with Parshas for this week. This whole idea of having to crush the illusion of idolatry even before the eyes of the Israelites in the land of Egypt, and that it was so powerful and so profound that there had to be a miraculous hand of Hashem in it. And you and I both know that's the reason why we've seen such a crushing or breaking of obstinate people toward Hashem in Israel and even across the world. We're going to need more of this very same crushing before people realize this was actually the truth, not this. I mean, like, clearly these miracles that God provides, and October 7th, as tragic as it was, has led to so many people doing tshuva. It's
Right.
incredible.
It has.
Even people in the nations are
Right.
doing
Well,
tshuva
that's
because
good.
it's like, we need to get our stuff together. I don't know what I
Right.
need to do, but I need to get my stuff together.
Right. Well, that's. I mean, yeah, and that's really what we believe. We don't believe anything is that nothing bad comes out from Hashem. Meaning that
No.
yes, these evil did what they did, but there is a calculation from every single person. I mean, it was a story I just heard. It was just an incredible story about this a guy who had passed away. He was there when he was a what do you call it, a guard. He was a reservist. He wasn't in the army anymore, but he was a guard. And so he was trained, and he heard when the thing was happening where he was. He realized something was going on. He put his family in the shelter, and he ran out, and he took his gun, and he started going, and he started shooting and trying to take out terrorists. And he took out one, two. He was saving people, and then eventually he got killed. And we have a thing that when a person passes away, well, they know the people in Judaism, they sit 7 days and they mourn. And during the mourning period, the wife, who was very distraught, said the husband came to her in a dream, and she was at peace. At that shiva, at the morning, was this guy's best friend, who was also a army person and a guard with this man who was killed. And the best friend said he wishes that the guy would come, that the friend that died came to him in a dream. And he did. Came to him in a dream. And these guys were what's called Masorati. They're not really so religious, but they're traditional
Right.
Jews. They do a lot of things, but they're not. And the dead best friend came to him in a dream, and they were like best friends again. They were doing this and going here, and they're going in the car, and they were together, and it was great. And then, one thing at a time, the deceased friend starts quoting these things from the Torah.
Oh, wow.
And these things, and the guy says to him, wait a minute, how do you know this?
It's beautiful.
And he says, don't you understand? The guy says, I died as a martyr fighting for the Jewish people. I'm being taught. And he said the name of the rabbi.
Oh, really?
Who died as a martyr. And he says, he's teaching me this in the Torah. So I know, don't you get what's going on? Yeah.
Was it Akiva?
No, it was Bishua ben Elisha. So, but what happened was, but the point is that I'm telling you this to understand, because when we talk about October 7th as a terrible, sad day, and it certainly is, it is not. You should not inject the wrong notions of the world that there is no judge and no justice. That is completely false. Everyone got what they had to get as fixing up what they were fixing up. And the person who died, now again, we as human beings can't go and point out that this is why we don't know why.
No.
Don't know why. We just know that there is no such thing as injustice. Whatever is happening is for a deeper reason. So this person in the dream, he said, yeah, he died, and and he's mourned and missed. But from when his best friend and his wife saw where he was, they had a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
We don't have perspective because we live in the world. And I always give people the example, when you're in the mother's womb, you can't imagine there's anything outside of it. So we live in this world, there's nothing outside. That's the way we live. That's what we believe, because it's in our reality. So you can't imagine. And therefore, this looks unfair. This looks not right. That's not what's happening. So yeah, I mean, and these phony liars in the world, they haven't talked about releasing the captives. That's the worst thing in the world. It's the worst thing, because the person's a captive to these Islamo Nazis.
How many are still captive now?
A lot, over 100 still.
Oh,
Over 100.
really? I thought it was
Yeah.
only a couple of dozen, maybe.
No, it's still quite a few.
Oh,
But they don't
wow.
know. They're not. Also, they don't know, because they don't know who they killed and what they did.
Oh, they don't have a full account of who was taken.
They can't because they were taking the dead bodies even at the time. They were taking people that they killed because they knew that they could, Anyway, these are terrible, terrible, terrible things. Terrible, terrible, terrible things. They are sad.
But good is coming out of it.
I'm not trying to diminish in any way the sadness of it, and the prayers that we have to call out. God has its calculation, and sometimes part of the calculation is that the people are moved to call out and to care enough about their brethren. I'm just saying that there is no such thing as a random world and things that are meaningless, and there's no such thing. That's part of the Naziist philosophy of a non-meaningful world. But the reality of the world is that God created a beautiful world. He gave humanity the ability to finish the job and build that goodness themselves, to be able to taste it and to have it for eternity. And people have done some very, very negative things, and within that whole process, God is still moving the whole thing where you're going to see at the end. Same way the Jews saw in the story of the Exodus of Egypt.
Right.
They saw when they were crossing the Red Sea and they saw the Egyptians drowning. They actually saw, every Jew saw the Egyptian that was beating him drown. They saw everything, where they realized everything we went through made sense, and the justice was exact. Now, that's a very hard thing to get to. It's a very high level, and that's going to happen at the end of time. But I tell you this to realize that it's not. We don't look at it in that way. We look at it, everything, as the process that is for redemption. There is no process of suffering only for the purpose. When we go through these things, it is to bring us to the place of the good that God is looking to give us. And then when the Jewish people do their job, they shower that good onto the whole world. Right? As I said many times, when the temple stood in Jerusalem, there were no famines. You would not need John Kerry flying around in his private jet saving the world.
Right.
Yeah, because there wasn't any natural disasters. Okay, so all these people who think they're saving the world and they're saving themselves in their own honor, the world was clear. So that's what I said. And yet the Romans, who are really, the Western world today, destroyed the temple. And if people would have known what the temple is providing for them, not only would they not have destroyed it, they would put a 24-hour guard to protect it.
Right.
And that's exactly what's happening today. These people who don't understand and they want to destroy the Jews, they don't understand that the Jews' job is to bring to bring the blessing to the world. That was what will happen. And that as you read in your Torah, it says that whoever God gets said to Abram, those are cursed, you will be cursed. Those are blessed, you will be blessed. That's the reality of the world. And again, we don't say this as we are the. It's not a haughtiness thing. It's everyone has their job, what they have to do. Somebody wants to become Jewish, to become Jewish. It's not, they have this whole thing about, the racism, and it's the same because Jews come in all different colors, shapes, and sizes. I was in Beit Shemesh last week, and there's a very strong Ethiopian Jewish community. These are, Ethiopian Jews. They're Black Jews. They're religious Jews. They're wearing yarmulkes. And a person, we don't have such a thing. So the whole thing the world's claiming is a nonsense, and that's why, in its root, it's really a battle against God, and that's what God says. Amalek, the nation of Amalek, who wants to eradicate the Jews, is in a war against goodness. And people are seeing it. This is what maybe hope for the world is that people are seeing. Again, it's hope for the world because it's going to be good in the end. just who's going to get it, who's not going to get it. That's the only question. Who's going to see it? Who's going to be Pharaoh in the end? Paro in the end. Pharaoh was fighting to the last second. The Red Sea was split. And he ran in after them anyway. Like, how crazy can one person be? It's no different than anything else that everyone's doing today. They can see it, 6-Day War. Wow, that was a miracle. This war, God brought people back. Which nation in the world? Name me one nation that's been scattered to the four corners of the earth, persecuted by the Jews, and come back to the Holy Land. And name me one nation that was predicted in the Torah was going to happen. First of all, it's never happened. But then it says in the Torah, this will happen. So you need to be blind. You need to be blind not to see. But people are blind. So we should have a blessing that we should not be blind. We should be able to see clearly. And everyone should be able to do their mission in the world. Person is Jewish, person is not Jewish. There's Zion mitzvahs, still 13 commandments. There is the way to serve God with who we are and what we are, and to see the goodness in the world, not like those who see negative, see the wrong picture, and then bring that out in the world with their words or their Facebook posts or their this or that. That's not it. And we have to just do our thing, because you can't control people, but we do the right thing, then God willing, more and more people will see, and then the transition will be easier for the rest of the world. Okay? I'm gonna check out a little bit earlier tonight. It's getting late here, and but good speaking to you.
Thank
David,
you so much, Rabbi.
I'm gonna send you some of the songs. I will go and talk about it next week, because I think those that want to take on the 7 Noachide laws in front of a Beis Din, in front of a court, it's a very, very powerful thing. I'll explain next week a little bit what it means, what it entails, and the different effect that it has, because it is something that is significant. We want to do that in Texas when we're going to have a concert. And some Torah and some music. Dave, you can find us a percussion player.
I could probably work on that.
Okay, that's really
One of my buddies who's converting right now, he's a drummer, so he can
okay.
play.
All right, I want percussion though, because the drums will need more practice time.
Gotcha.
That'd be better, because, or a bass player and a percussion player could be.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
So
All right.
if that falls through, let me know. My son-in-law can play, what do you call the thing? The little box you sit on and play the.
That's good. He's good. He's
But
good.
yeah. He's played in
Cajon.
band. He's in a band now. So, and he's a
Okay.
Noahide. So if you want to use him, I'll ask him what he's available to do, and y'all can talk it out. I'll let him get a hold of you, David, if he thinks he's interested. He can do it.
Okay, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna have some music and Torah, and you got to hear some old songs and some new songs and some borrowed songs, some songs that I changed the lyrics a little bit, some oldies, goodies, and we'll have a good time. All right, so we'll be in touch. We'll update you all on that.
Can you
Okay.
take one question, Rabbi?
Yes, please.
Okay, Toshi's asking, he says, sometimes or often I am worrying about numbers itself or meanings. He says, is this prohibited on the 7 Noahide laws? Sorry if my question is not appropriate.
Worrying about, I'm sorry if I understood the question. He's
He
worrying
says,
about,
numbers itself or meanings. Is this like, I don't know. I'm getting the impression he's inquiring about signs and omens, but Toshi, if you could rephrase the question.
if
Mind you,
that's
there's
the
a- there's-
question,
Go ahead, Rabbi.
if that's the question, I mean, if it's a question of trying to read signs, so if that's the question, what you shouldn't do is you shouldn't become superstitious. Meaning that if a person says, if I don't know, a black cat runs in front of them, oh, this and that. That's not good. Is it exactly called for Jews? That's forbidden. That's called type form of kishuf, a form of sorcery. I have to see for Noahide if that's idolatry or not. I don't know if it's idolatry, but it's not good. But, and this is what you're probably doing, Toshi, but to go and to see a sign in the world that's happening to you and to think logically, what does this mean? Right? That you can do. So, for example, if you tried a job once, try it twice, 3 times, and it's not working, then to sit back and say, well, maybe God's sending me a sign, this is not for me. That you can do, because that's still a logical understanding. It's not a superstitious product. It's trying to understand how God's running the world by using what He gave us, the faculty of thinking, and to make it make sense. That's commendable. All right.
Thank you very much, Rabbi, and
Take care.
look forward to next week.
All the best. Thanks. Bye.
Shalom, Rabbi. Liatrot.
Bye.
See you guys. Shalom, guys. See you. What's the day? Sunday, Monday night. We're back at the grind again. Shalom.
Boy,
shalom,
you guys are busy down there. That's good to see.
Okay.
All right,
bye-bye.
folks. So we're going to sign out for our Working Together series for today. Always an excellent time. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next week, have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody. Bye for now.